Good evening, Grinders. Welcome to the NFL Showdown Pre-Lock Show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blender Ed, Blender HD, joined by Justin Van Zuden, STL Cards, for another great NFL season. And if you want to make a bet on the NFL, you should visit our sponsor, BetMGM. Use the bonus code GRINDERSBET. That's all one word, GRINDERSBET. And bet $10 to get $200 instantly on BetMGM. So, Cards, you're going to be with me all Thursday. You're going to have to put up with me every Thursday night for this showdown. We got the first one, $10 contest on DraftKings, $1 million to first. FanDuel, it's like $5, and there's a million people in that contest. There's tons of other, smaller field, 20 max. Football's back. Are you excited, or you think by week 8 we'll be like when's basketball?
By week 3, the Ravens are already there. What are we doing? Everybody's getting hurt. But no, it's always exciting when football comes back. Huge interest level in sports betting and DFS, and it's just it's better when everybody's talking football. So yeah, we'll get to the grindy middle of the season before we know it. But for now, it's still new and exciting, and like you said, I got to put up with you. It makes it easier to do. That'll become more of a grind in week 8, week 9, week 10. But right now we're good.
So just to get everyone accustomed to the type of show that we do here for Showdown, I focus primarily on the large field GPPs. Cards maybe talk more about the smaller field cash game topic. You're playing the best plays, and me, I'm the crazy person that cares about being duplicated in large field GPPs. But before we start, you could always ask your questions in the YouTube chat. We got Devin in the background. Maybe pull some out. I'll always scroll back. So if you have any questions, feel free, type them in the YouTube chat. And while you're at it, give us a thumbs up. Give me some of those thummy thumbs. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got a bunch of shows tomorrow for the NFL. We got a bunch of stuff on Saturday. Sunday morning is nuts. So that bell will be going off time and time again. So before we start talking about lineup construction, let's talk about inactives. We always start with inactives because obviously you don't want to play a player that isn't going to play. Outside of Noah Brown, inactive, and Jalen Darden, who is, I guess, a rookie, 6th wide receiver for the Buccaneers, those were the only 2 that I saw that were even projected to even get any snaps whatsoever. Does that necessarily change anything? Is there any offensive linemen that we need to worry about? Or are those like basically the 2 main things? And do you even consider them to even be main things?
Yeah, I don't think it really changes a whole lot. We've had a lot of time leading up to this being the first game, so not a whole lot of surprises. Dallas with their final wide receiver spot, Simi Fehoko, you might see get some snaps. Speed threat, he's min salary, so could potentially enter the if you want to get crazy radar, he's there, but otherwise not a whole lot of changes.
So this game currently has I think a 51.5, 52.5 total. The Buccaneers favored by 8.5 or so. So the implied total for the Bucks is over 30. For the Cowboys is a little over 21. If we were thinking about the most probable game flow, so people typically build their lineups based on a story. You would have to think that the Buccaneers, number one from last year, ranked run defense, fifth ranked pass defense. So it's a pretty good defensive unit. But this Dallas team is not like the Dallas team from most of the season last year. They're getting Dak back. And we have to expect that Tampa Bay with Brady spreads the ball around a lot in the passing game. They have multiple running backs. We got Giovanni Bernard now in the mix because Keyshawn Vaughn is inactive. If we want to care about that, he's inactive. Don't play him. I don't think he was even in the projections anyway. What would you think is the most common build? So if you were playing double ups, 50-50s, head-to-heads on either side, I guess. I mean, FanDuel's a little bit softer with an MVP with no multiplier and only 5 slots. Like what would be the construction for like the most probable outcome for this game?
I mean, the most likely outcome is that the Bucs play with a lead. They use their pass game. They get out to a lead. They control the game and they run the ball in the second half. The problem is that, or not necessarily the problem, the weird thing about that is it doesn't really jive with, how we expect ownership to flow. And the reason for that is it's easier to play Zeke at running back because he's going to get his touches. It's not as easy to play Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones. It's easy to play the Tampa Bay wide receivers because we know, on both sides, we really know where the targets are going to go. But with the normal game script of Tampa playing with a lead, you'd think that it'd be their running backs that everybody's gravitating towards, but it's really hard to get excited about trying to pick between Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, especially now that Bernard's in the mix for passing down snaps because the other two guys couldn't catch a can of corn. So it's interesting. It's just not the normal like build you would expect to see in a game where the spread is now up to 9. That's a big number. But yet Zeke is going to be probably more popular than the 2 Tampa Bay running backs just because we don't know how carries are going to get split out there. So really interesting.
If you were to play one of the Tampa running backs, what I like to do is I go to Scores and Odds, which is a better collective site. And what I like looking at the props, because I mean, we have projections. I mean, this will be backed up by the projections. Don't worry about it. And if we go to rushing yards, so even if you're not going to bet on props, even if you're not going to go to BetMGM and get your free $200 when you bet $10 with the promo code GRINDERSBET, you can still go and see what are the lines on these sites. You get a good swath of books. And I look and I see the rushing yards for Leonard Fournette is 35.5, 36.5, 37.5. And then you go Ronald Jones, 47.5, 48.5. And so 10 yards higher on the prop. Yet if we go and look at the pricing, Fournette 7K and Ronald Jones is 5K. So from obviously the projections even back that up with 8.76 is the blitz versus 9.17. So Fournette has a slightly higher projection, but from a point per dollar perspective, he's 2,000 more. So, you would have to expect, I don't think either running back is going to be necessarily that chalky, but you would have to think that Ronald Jones is going to be owned more than Fournette.
Yeah. I mean, Jones projects as the better play, mainly because we don't perceive him as being dust, and Fournette, maybe a little dusty, but I'm the kind of guy that will probably never roster Leonard Fournette at this stage of his career, but maybe that's a little bit of bias on my part too. But I'm with you. I think Jones is the better bet.
So for guaranteed points, like in cash games and chalk builds, you would have to expect that you're playing both quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it's just it's easy enough to fit them in there that I think you play them both.
Now, would you play one at captain? Because I think the way that Brady plays and the Bucs offense is that, let's say, okay, we don't know what's going to happen at running back. So maybe in a double up type of lineup, you don't play Fournette, you don't play Ronald Jones. But I mean, if we go here, we go right back to the props. We go to the passing yards. Brady's prop is over 300. Prescott is close to that, 293. But especially on DK with the 300-yard bonus and the fact that Brady can, I mean, yes, we know where the main targets go, right? We got Brown, we got Godwin, we got Evans, we got Gronk, you got 3 tight ends that rotate. OJ Howard is back, Cameron Brate, then you got Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller. for, every once in a while rotate in. You got Giovanni Bernard out of the backfield. The other two running backs catch passes out of the backfield. Like, this could be a game that Brady throws for 300 plus yards, but none of the receivers have like ceiling games. So for safety, I mean, we see it in the ownership as far as captain is concerned. Brady's going to be the most owned captain, but from a floor perspective, I can't blame you for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has a fantastic floor in this spot, and you can certainly make if you're playing both quarterbacks and you're captaining one, you are going to have to punt a spot. But you can play a kicker or a defense. Like, you're probably not playing both defenses or anything like that on the slate, but you can play one. Help you get that secure floor of both QBs. So I think it's doable.
Right. So in more of a cash game lineup, you'd expect to play both quarterbacks, probably two of the wide receivers, the main wide receivers out of the six. I think Antonio Brown, if we take a look, I'm still going to go back to scoresandodds.com. I go to these receiving yards. Antonio Brown, 56.5, 57.5, 58.5. Godwin, 57.5, 58.5. One's at 60.5. Evans, 64, 65, 62. So Antonio Brown is the lowest out of the three, but they're only separated by a couple of yards. And we take a look at the pricing. Evans is 9,200, Godwin's 8,600, and Antonio Brown's 5,600. Now, we know that he's not going to see as many snaps as Godwin and Evans, but typically when he's on the field, he does get targeted. So even if he's getting 65, 70% of the snaps at 5,600, I think for a cash play, if you're gonna fit in both quarterbacks as well as maybe Zeke also for guaranteed touches, I think Antonio Brown, out of the six main wide receivers combined for both teams, is probably the best bet point per dollar.
Yeah, I agree. He maybe doesn't have the same floor as the other guys, but he's also a good bit cheaper. And if you're building that lineup where you're playing both quarterbacks, the savings of $3,000 or so from those other top two Tampa wide receivers, I think there's plenty of value in that. If you take our projections on a point per dollar basis, he is the best play of the three. So yeah, you can get both quarterbacks, and then Antonio Brown, maybe pick your favorite receiver on the Dallas side. Cooper and Lamb are more expensive. Gallup is cheaper. Same kind of argument there. I think maybe I try to get up to Cooper or Lamb there with Dallas, but that's another way you can build it and get another pass catcher in there.
Okay, I'm going to show another thing on scoresandodds.com since we're talking about prop bets, and a lot of people are making prop bets on today's first NFL game. I believe they did this for me. I got him. Okay, here we go. If you are a member of scoresandodds.com, so if you sign up there and pay for SAO premium, on the prop bets, we will actually show you the RotoGrinders Gridiron IQ projections next to the prop bets. So if you want to go to, we saw the receiving yards, right? Based on our projection, we have receiving yards 58.77, and it will show you the actual projection and the difference between them. Like, we have 75.818 for Godwin, but most of these books have 57.5 as obviously the prop bet. So based on that, it seems like a good bet. If you were to rely on the Gridiron IQ projections, going to BetMGM using the promo code GRINDERSBET, this will show you that. So obviously you could get a RotoGrinders subscription, premium subscription. You could click on the link below, get $10 off your first month, and see those projections. I mean, you'll see it in here. I have the Blitz projections up, but you could switch over to Gridiron IQ, and then you could compare it. I mean, you can do that, but if you want it in line yourself, so you could just go to scoresandodds.com and say, hey, if I trust the RotoGrinders projections, let's see what could be plus EV bets on the game. So if we're playing a more cash game type of lineup, I know we'll talk about GPPs in a second. We're going to need a punt of some type, probably. Do you feel that comfortable with Giovanni Bernard, even though he's 2K?
I mean, I do in that kind of build. Like, the problem is that's heavily reliant, like that kind of build is heavily reliant on the passing game being the thing tonight. And in cash games, I don't know if you want to put all your eggs in that basket. Like you got Prescott, you got Brady, you got maybe Antonio Brown, you've got a Dallas receiver, then you got Bernard. Like that's putting a lot of eggs in the pass catching basket. So I think Bernard is fine in GPPs. But in cash games, like I just think you take either Tampa's defense or you take a kicker. Like, you talked on these shows last year a lot when we did them about how, the kickers and stuff get underappreciated at times. And like, I don't have a problem punting with a kicker, so to speak.
Right, but 4K, like Succop is 4K. I mean,
It's not.
I mean, that's low enough, but
That's fair. I mean, it's $2,000 more than Gio Bernard. Just like, but if Tampa gets a 2 touchdown lead in this game, I don't know. He might be looking at like 12 snaps.
Yeah, but if he's going to get 3-4 targets out of the backfield, PPR wise, Bernard on FanDuel, I can understand like not touching, because obviously the salary differences, the minimum price is only 5,000 and it's half point PPR. We're not saying that Giovanni Bernard's going to get a touchdown, but compared to like some of these other, who would you feel more comfortable if we take away anything underneath the Cowboys defense? So we're talking about Brate, Howard, Bernard, Miller, Cedric Wilson, Johnson, Fehoko. Like, who do you feel more comfortable out of that bunch? Isn't
Bernard's if you're going 2K, Bernard is the guy. It's just a matter of whether, like, if you asked me, okay, there's a 2K difference between Bernard and say Succop, and that's the same difference as it is with like Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. Well, it's even more. So if you put a combo together of Chris Godwin and Bernard or Antonio Brown in the Bucs defense, like in cash games, I'd take Antonio Brown in the Bucs defense. If you need to go to 2K, like Bernard is the choice there. I don't know if you need to do it in cash game builds. I squarely on the fence in that. I just like, if this was a game where Tampa was a 9-point dog, I think it would be a no-brainer. I don't know. It depends. It's contingent upon Dallas keeping it close. Like if it's a 2 touchdown game, you might not see the field in the second half, and that's just an uncomfortable floor, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so now for GPPs, we know that Brady is going to have the highest captain ownership. I mean, I have approximate ownership here. I massage it myself. So in the captain spot, the quarterbacks look like they're going to take up about 30% of the ownership at captain. So Brady 17, Prescott 13, and then we get Lamb and Godwin at around 10, 11. Then we get pretty much all the wide receivers, except for the cheaper ones are a little bit lower. Antonio Brown at 6, Gallup at 5, and then we go down to Fournette and Jones. If obviously for GPPs, correlation matters to some extent. If you're going to play Brady as captain, most likely you're going to be pairing him with some receivers on the team, right? If he's going to be the highest scoring player on the slate and have 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, it's having Brady as captain and 5 Cowboys is probably not going to be working out that way. So in Brady lineups, I understand playing Godwin plus Evans or playing 2 out of the 3 main wide receivers, but everyone else is going to do that also. So and then same thing for Prescott. People are going to play Prescott plus 2 of Cooper, Gallup, Lamb. What are ways to get different, especially in large field tournaments where you're still playing good players, but not necessarily in the way that everyone else is?
Well, that's when you compare Brady with Gio Bernard. Those are the lineups you do that. I think, we've got Bernard at 8, 9, 10% ownership. I think that makes him interesting. He might come in a little higher than that, but makes him interesting in tournaments. Or foregoing that build and going with Ronald Jones or Fournette in the captain, I think is interesting, but just a matter of trying to get those guys right. It makes people not want to do it. So, if you're actually talking about keeping that Brady lineup and making it different, I think those are definitely the lineups where Bernard is interesting. Maybe you roll with one of the secondary tight ends and hope they catch a touchdown. I think that's viable, just to try to, leaving salary on the table. We haven't talked about that yet for people that are new. Certainly with all the variants in a showdown slate, you can leave money on the table. That's a way to make things a little bit different. That's 3 or 4 things that come to top of mind here.
Right. If I go to Slate IQ, which is premium, right? Giving out a little bit of premium stuff for opening night of NFL. Eric Blindford does our Showdown Slate IQ here at RotoGrinders. You could get this for every main showdown slate. So we're talking about Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. And he does a data analysis, finding the game archetypes, because we have results DB. So we have all this DraftKings data, right? This is just for DraftKings, and finds the games that look similarly to this, from a total, from a spread, from the way the offense and defenses shape out for the salaries, and then compare simulation-wise, like running the slate 1,000 times, 5,000 times, and then seeing what types of lineups come in the top 0.1% of a large field GPP. So we're talking about the main $10 showdown slate on DraftKings. So it'll run that simulation and show what lineups appear more often than what they will be owned. So based on Slate IQ for tonight, Eric has the 2-4 build. This means the favorite versus the underdog. So 2 Buccaneers and 4 Cowboys as the highest leverage type of construction. 4-2 also has positive leverage. And it seems like the onslaughts actually show up less than what they'll be owned. And 3-3s are dramatically less. So we can see that here on this chart. So if you're a premium member and you want to play Sunday night showdown, Monday night showdown, obviously Thursday night, getting this article typically comes out about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern time. And I go by it, right? Now, it doesn't mean you have to make every lineup like this, but I could tell you, I made 120 lineups for tonight's showdown. Their majority of them are either 4-2s and 2-4s. I have some 3-3s in there. And it also shows we go down to the captain usage. So running that simulation a whole bunch of times based on the ownership of, these positions. And typically they go by salary. So wide receiver 1, you would say on both teams, who is the wide receiver 1? The simulation typically is based on salary, although obviously there's leeway there. So based on this, wide receiver 1 shows up way more often than will it be owned. Quarterback is not, it's still the second highest, but it's a little over-owned. And then we also see DST in the captain spot and running back 2 in the captain spot. And running back 2 kind of makes sense because based on the salaries, Ronald Jones is the running back 2 of the Buccaneers this slate. And then everything else is kind of not necessarily showing up as often as it's owned. So I'll tell you, Justin, I made a lot of Amari Cooper captains. I made a lot of Evans captains. I made Ronald Jones captains. I made Buccaneers captains. I eat my own dog food, right? I trust Eric, right? So if I don't win, I'm going to blame him. So I'll even show you here. I built my lineups beforehand. I had to switch out some people because obviously Noah Brown wasn't in. So I had to switch him out with some more pro, whatever his name is. But if you see right here, just so people are aware, here are my exact exposures for captain. Ronald Jones, 28% Ronald Jones captain in 120 lineups. Cards, am I nuts?
No, you're not nuts. You're using the data. Yeah, I don't hate Ronald Jones. I don't know if I'd go that extreme, but I think he's fine. And the defense,
but obviously, obviously what I'm doing is I'm going against what the probable game script. I'm still saying that the Buccaneers are going to win, but everyone's playing the Brady and the wide receivers. Maybe Ronald Jones gets 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and everyone else kind of fails. Since I'm playing the large field $10 contest with God knows how many entries in it, like how else am I not going to be duplicated? How many people are playing Buccaneers?
473,000 entries.
Right, 473,000 entries.
And 65.
Okay, I got to remember the other 60.
You got to beat the 65.
I got to recalculate everything now for the other 65. So in GPP for large field, Justin, what other ways are there to necessarily get different and not be duplicated. Because let me tell you, I have a lot more of this Simi Fehoko guy and Simi Fehoko, right? He's now replacing all my Noah Brown lineup, so I actually have like 9% of him. The thing, just to be clear, I have Fehoko, whatever his name is, I don't even know. Fehoko?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay, I have him in lineups where I'm not leaving that much money on the table. Right, I'm not playing lineups that I'm playing 46,000 and playing a $200 guy instead of like a $4,200 person. It's just that there's so few like $200 guys to play that I'm hoping that the other 5 guys in the lineup that you could only fit because you're playing a $200 guy, like they overperform everyone else so much that even if I get a 0, I could possibly win first place. But I'm not expecting this Simi Fehoko guy to go out and like, oh, he's going to be one of the high scorers on the slate. Like I like building lineups like that. I think is a bit of a leap, and of course it's going to go out and some $45,000 lineup with him is going to win. But I think a lot of people misuse the punts. Sure. And I'm going to leave money on the table and use one of these guys that may only see the field 5 times. Like you still need to score enough raw points. And if I could get up to a kicker, like the kickers are projected to score more raw points. If I could still not be as duplicated with that lineup, I'd prefer to take the kicker than take a guy that seriously, he may not even see the field.
Yeah, and you understand. I mean, you understand that. Yeah, I mean the risk that goes along with that. He's their 5th wide receiver, so if they fall behind, going all out, trying to come back late, he's probably going to get some snaps. But yeah, he's nowhere near a sure thing. Like I think other ways to get different. Like I think some of the wide receivers in captain are interesting. We haven't really talked about Zeke yet, and he doesn't really fit that optimal build. And the Bucs have a good run defense. And he's expensive, and Dallas is probably going to be behind. But yet we know that they're going to try to establish him early. Like the bet on scores and odds that I put in earlier was you can get Zeke to score a touchdown and Zeke to get over 50 yards, 55 yards, I think is his prop, and Dallas to cover the spread, which look, Dallas isn't covering unless Zeke scores once. I mean, it feels like there's so much correlation between Zeke scoring and Dallas covering the spread and then Zeke getting 55 yards. That's like plus 400 on most of the sports books now. Your mileage will vary on the sports books that offer the same game parlays. But the point being, if Dallas is going to stay competitive in this game, it's going to have to be because Zeke does something. And so, maybe he's not going to be as highly owned as we have him. There's really been steam building on the Bucs. Like this line opened at 6.5 or 7. Now it's 9. Like I think people are kind of souring on Zeke a little bit. So, like where are you at on him compared to the field in terms of your overall ownership?
Well, I'm naturally going to be under on Zeke since I'm playing so much Ronald Jones. So I mean but you could play that type of lineup. But I think you're more likely to play Zeke in a lineup if you're playing a 4-2 Bucs. If you understand what I'm saying.
In the hopes that Dallas gets ahead and you can roll some of those pass catchers for the Bucs.
Right. I'm like, even in a Brady captain lineup, like Brady is throwing for 300 yards while the Cowboys are ahead because Zeke has 120 yards rushing, has the 30 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. I mean, if you play him in captain, I mean, that's fine also. But I think I'm less likely to play Zeke in 4-2 Cowboys lineups, right? At his price. I mean, doesn't mean he can't, but I think Zeke is more negatively correlated to the Dallas passing game for that type of like game script that, I don't want to have so many other Cowboys in my lineup because I'm not sure they could get to their ceilings if Zeke gets to his ceiling.
Yeah. Very fair point.
Dan Bach has a question. Would you rather play kicker or DST in captain to get unique? I'm playing the Bucs DST in captain.
I like the Bucs defense. I think, and there's nothing more exciting than rooting for a 7-0 game and a pick 6 in your showdown lineup. So you got to do that.
typically, Justin, the defenses are over-owned, but they're over. This is one of those few Thursday games, because this is why me and you, like me and Will on Mondays, typically will have a good time, because those Monday night games are typically good games. Thursday night games, we're gonna have some games that have like 40 totals.
We get the Giants in Washington next week. I'm already getting pumped for that one.
But those are the games where everyone starts overplaying the defenses. It's these games that have 52 totals.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I don't think people will tonight. And the Bucks have a good defense. I mean, and if Dallas gets behind and they have to push the pace a little bit, like, I think the Bucks defense is a really interesting captain play tonight.
Yeah, kickers. I don't think I've ever played a kicker captain. I think I've seen one or two won before.
And it actually was field goal games.
Right. But I just think their ceilings are just so, like, the game would have to be like 15-13. And then even then you need the kicker that has like 5 field goals. And then no one else scores a lot. No quarterback goes off and no one throws for a touchdown. I mean, it could happen, but I just think I'd much rather play, punt guys than and find a different way. I think I'm getting different enough by playing some of these other guys. My favorite play punt range is OJ Howard. Only because I don't think as many people are gonna. I think if the Bucks only had 2 tight ends available, he would be much higher owned. And I think just due to the fact that he was out for most of last season, that people forgot about him. And I believe that he's going to be on the field more than Brait will. And the Bucks do play 2 tight end sets. And Howard is just a freak athlete. He's not necessarily the greatest, pass catcher. But if you told me that there's some guy under the defenses that is not just the guy that maybe see the field 4 times, like Howard, I think is going to be on the field enough snaps that he could break a 60-yard touchdown, like no problem. I mean, you could say the same thing with Gronkowski.
Howard could also drop it a 60-yard touchdown and break everybody's heart. That's what he's come known for over the years. But yeah, I mean, Gronk is going to be much higher owned than the other 2 tight ends. Like I wish we had some idea of how the snaps would shake out there. But like Howard is more of a pass catching threat or an upside threat, I guess, than Brait. So I'm more inclined to roster him for some ceiling. But it's a little bit concerning just because we don't know how much. We haven't seen all 3 of those guys healthy together very often. So it's just a little bit risky because we don't know how that's going to shake out. But you're also getting super low ownership on the other 2 outside of Gronk in tournaments.
Also, we don't know how it's going to shake out is the snap share between Jarwin and Schultz.
Right.
I think a lot of people predicted that Jarwin would see a bulk of that role, but we don't know about that. And truthfully, this may seem weird. Are we really sure that Ezekiel Elliott's going to be playing 85+% of the snaps? Like Tony Pollard's there, and if you go on DFS Twitter, Pollard is a 10-time better running back than Zeke Elliott, and that may actually be true. Are we completely sure that if we go back to when Dak was playing earlier last year, Zeke was a bell cow type of running back, but we saw throughout the stretch that yes, the Cowboys were bad. They may have wanted to just save Zeke because they weren't going to make the playoffs and they weren't going to get anywhere anyway. But who says that that's correct? Maybe we see Zeke only getting 60% and Pollard getting 40%, and at 4,200, if he's going to see enough time on the field, I mean, we have him at like around 12% ownership, so I don't think he's going like completely under the radar. But you have to say that there's upside there at that salary if it doesn't happen the way we think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most likely outcome is somewhere in the middle of, I think Zeke will maybe be higher than 60, but not quite to the level when he was the workhorse guy. Some of it might depend on game flow a little bit too, but I mean, Pollard showed his chops when he got the opportunity that he certainly had the ability, or if you're an RB don't matter kind of person, and maybe that's part of the argument too. But I think you'll see Pollard have more of a role this year, but in competitive games, national TV, first game of the season against the Bucks, like I don't think their coaching staff can resist. Like if this game is close and competitive in the second half, I think Zeke will be out there just because, right or wrong, you just, you trust your vets there.
Okay, so if you're in the YouTube chat right now, we're answering your questions about tonight's NFL showdown slate. Give me those thumbs up while you're at it. Thummy thumbs, thummy thumbs. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. If you have any questions about showdown strategy, player questions, anything that you would like. Obviously, I focus more on large field GPPs, so I'm nuts. All right, if you take a look at some of my lineups, I'll even show you. Outside of obviously the Noah Brown and the Jalen, I think I had one Darden lineup that I had to switch, that I switched inside the app when that happened. But if you take a look at some of my lineups, and don't dupe me, bro, okay? I have to say that. I have to say that because I'm going to show you lineups that I'm playing, and I don't want you to play them because then we'll both have them. But I have some lineups, look, 45-8, 46,000, 46-3, 46-4, 46-8, 47,000. Like, don't be afraid to leave a ton of money on the table. Because in some of these lineups, look, I'm leaving 47-8. I'm leaving 2,200 on the table. I'm playing the Buccaneers defense as captain, Ronald Jones, Antonio Brown, Cooper, Prescott, Brady. Like, am I playing no ones? Like, these are all obviously, players that are going to be owned, but the configuration of it is less likely to be duplicated. So even if you're playing one lineup, right? A lot of people try to play too safe. Right, I only have one. I'm playing one lineup into the $10 large field contest. Some people would say you shouldn't be playing the large field contest unless you're willing to play a lot more lineups. But it's perfectly fine to just play $10 one lineup in there. Don't play a safe lineup. Go for the $1 million. Play a lineup. Maybe it's duplicated 20 times. Well, that's still $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. Don't play a lineup that's going to be duplicated 3,000 times. So instead of going with the way that, I'm going to play Brady at captain, I'm going to play Antonio Brown, I'm going to play Giovanni Bernard, I'm going to play Zeke Elliott or one of the, Dak Prescott. It's like, yeah, that if that wins, you're going to be tied with a stadium full of people with the same lineup, which is fine. If it's just that it's not the most profitable to do so. So that's the main reason why, I make tons of lineups that are weird, but I do have a single entry lineup in. And let me tell you, my single entry lineup is fairly weird also, because I'm looking to beat out as many people as possible, and you take advantage of the ownership.
I think you tweeted about this the other day, but the natural tendency for people is to build the safest lineup that's least likely to lose them their entry fee. And that helps you churn through your dollars a little better. Like, that lineup is the most likely to get you that safe lineup is the most likely to get you like $15 back from your $10 buy-in or whatever the case may be, your $10.
But it's not going to, like, if you go into the slate going, okay, it locks. I have a shot at $1 million. It's like,
you probably
don't.
Yeah,
you're right. You don't.
And even if you do, if you have the nuts, if that lineup ends up being the best lineup, you're walking away with like $3,000 because it's one of those slates where Blender's not winning, but 590 other people are all tying for first place. What you're trying to give yourself in these GPPs and these showdown builds is the best chance of having a unique lineup to give you more win equity at the top, because you play to win the game, the old Herm Edwards adage. If you want to build safe lineups, well, then just play double ups and 50-50s and build that way. But if you're building a GPP lineup and you're playing all those safe plays and trying not to take a risk, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you're playing the wrong game for the type of lineup that you're building. So, and this is just definitely the case with the showdowns, just because of the nature of the ownership and overlap and things like that. So, not necessarily the case. Maybe on a full week slate, you can build a GPP lineup that's still pretty safe. But in these showdowns, it's just a different beast.
Right. When those trains of 400 people tying for first, those are minus 75% days for me because like, even if I have the second nut lineup, like that's 371st place for like 3x. Like you don't make anything right? It's one of those things, right? I came in, I have the second best lineup and lost money, right? You don't mind having the second best lineup if the first best is solo and the second, okay, you're second and you're solo. That's still $100,000. Like I don't mind that. But I think understand what it is that you're playing for. Hey, there's some people that are like, I want to play for $10, and if I duplicate 7,000 times, then so be it. Okay, just understand over the course of time, that's not the most profitable way to play. And if you're going to play a $10 like lottery style 473,065 entry contest, why not go for it? Play that weird lineup into that, and then play a $10 single entry smaller field thing, and then play kind of your best plays into that. Because if you even get duplicated 3 or 4 times into that lineup, it will be more money than even if you're duplicated 400 times into the large field. You could win $5,000 in a single entry contest, like solo with that lineup that may be tied a million ways in first place in the large field.
Yeah, definitely. Well said there. And it might not be 473,065 because it looks like that contest on DraftKings might not fill. So might be a little bit of a break there.
Are we going to get overlay?
Looks like it's going to at least pass the break-even point where the site isn't losing money on it, but might not fill up to the maximum entries.
Right. Okay. We're not even at 400,000 yet. I don't know. We got 9 minutes left. 9 minutes left to lock. We'll be out of here in about 4 minutes, going till 8:15 Eastern. If you got any questions, obviously put them in the YouTube chat. OS asks Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb in DKGPP. Do you have any like these receivers on both teams? Like it's kind of like it's a mirror of like you got Evans and Godwin, and then you got Cooper and Lamb, and like the odd man out that is still good, that can still put up a ceiling, is kind of like Brown and Gallup.
Yeah.
But the difference between the top two, it's like I am like, what, like, is there a discernible difference?
Not really. I mean, there's a small one. Like, I don't know. It seems like Lamb is getting a lot of buzz. We've got him as like the most popular captain. I don't know. I know Cooper's got a tough matchup, but I'd still side with him just a little bit.
I think people are going with the aspect of the Buccaneers defense is good. The Cowboys are likely to be behind. Target the kind of the slot receiver guy, right? That's why, I mean, that's the same reason why Godwin tends to be more owned than Evans or Brown. Like for PPR scoring, for the full point PPR, like not like FanDuel where it's more like touchdown oriented and yardage oriented, that people on DraftKings tend to feel safer. Like the floors are higher on guys like Lamb and guys like Godwin than Evans and Cooper.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we're playing GPPs. I don't care about floors. I care about ceilings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Cooper gives you the ceiling.
From the chat, Liam Porteous, QQ, DK Cash, Gallup and Brown, or Suckup and Godwin. I'd take the 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, I would too.
Best weird captain in DKGPP.
I think it's the Bucs defense or Bernard if you really want to get frisky.
I don't think you play Bernard at the problem here. I tweeted this out last a couple of 2 days ago, yesterday. I don't know. I don't remember. The only reason I do not like playing cheap punt guys at captain is, one, the likelihood of typically the captain that scores the most, the player that scores the most amount of points is the most valuable captain. It's hard for me to see Bernard outscore everyone. But the second thing is, if you're going to play them at captain, let's say Giovanni Bernard is 1% owned in the captain spot. Let's just say, hey, he's 0.5% owned in the captain spot. And you go, wow, that's pretty low ownership. Well, this contest has almost 500,000 people in it, 500,000 entries. So what's 0.5% of 500,000? 2,500. So there's going to be 2,500 Giovanni Bernard captain lineups. The problem is that when you plug in Bernard captain, like you get to basically spend all your money on all the best players. Like the amount of combinations of Bernard captain lineups are actually not as many as you think if you're going to spend all of your money.
Yeah, leave some salary on the table if you're doing that.
Right. So like people get these little, oh, I'm going to get sneaky, play Bernard at captain, pay up for everything, spend 49.6K. And when that wins, it's actually tied 74 ways. And you're like, how is that possible? Right. I'm playing a weird captain. It's like, well, you could also spend the money and play Brady, Prescott, Elliott, Godwin. You could play. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why? The key is to make that lineup. And instead of playing Godwin, you play Tyler Johnson and leave 5,000 on the table. And maybe then you'll be unique. I mean, I don't think it's that great of a lineup to begin with, because I don't think Bernard could be the highest scoring player on the slate, but you run into that dupe problem. So at least solve one of them.
Yeah, fair point.
Okie doke. I'm going through. We put up these polls in the YouTube chat, and I can never see the actual chat. Is that a thing that I could fix here? I have no idea. That Devin behind the scenes is putting up these polls, and then I scroll and I can't even see them. So can I stop? Can I stop the polls? Can I stop the polls? Any bets tonight or only DFS? Is that a question? Or we're asking the chat? Are you making any bets? I don't bet. So, what do you have up on scores and odds?
Well, I had that one I mentioned earlier with the Cowboys to cover, Zeke to score, and Zeke over his rushing yards prop, and that's like plus 400 now. So I like the odds on that, even though I think, it probably doesn't hit half the time. You're getting implied odds of only needing it to happen like 20 or 25% of the time. So don't mind that. Otherwise, kind of lean towards the overs on some of the receiving props, like you hinted at earlier. I think a few of them, like Godwin's, are pretty light. So there should be a lot of plays and a lot of points in this game with the high total. So I think you can, even though the public loves to kind of bet overs, I think it does make some sense tonight with some of those.
Right. I would bet against this Keyshawn Vaughn touchdown line, being that he's not playing. Like that, I could identify that as far as my bets. So Cards, anything else before we get out of here?
I think we covered it. So yeah, should be a lot of fun. Enjoy football being back, and we'll get excited for that Giants-Washington game next Thursday night.
Woohoo! I like the crappy games. Right, the lower the scoring games, the weirder lineups that can possibly win.
The weirder lineups sound better in those games, right?
Right. The game that it's like, oh, you tell me there's going to be 55 points in this game. It's like, well, how could I get the $1,600 guy to score 20 points? Like, I can't. Like, I need the weird ones where uncorrelated messes end up in first place. So maybe this is not the slate for me, but it's $1 million up top on DraftKings. So and get in there quickly. That there may be a little bit of overlay. Feel free to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. We'll be here with you every Thursday night for this show, and Monday nights I'll be here with Will, and then on Sunday Night Showdown it's Keith Eister and Justin Carlucci. So feel free to subscribe to the channel and again sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. I'm always in the Discord. Justin's always around. Hit the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Subscribe to the RotoGrinders Daily Fantasy Football podcast feed also. These shows aren't, the live shows aren't on that feed, but we have all of the first look, the OGs, the Swolecast, the Advanced Analytics show, the PFF show. We have so many shows. Every day there's always 2 or 3 shows coming up on that feed. So subscribe, rate, and review in iTunes. We're 2 minutes away to the kickoff of the 2021 NFL season. If I don't win first place solo, I hope you do, and I come in second.
All right, we'll take it.
Okay, and then the rest of the chat room. Then I'm going to root for them. Just don't dupe me, bro. Don't dupe me, bro. So for Justin SDL Cards, I'm Jordan Cooper, Blender HD, and that has been the NFL Showdown pre-lock show here on RotoGrinders.com.